Welcome to Issued for Construction. I am your host, Jonathan Jacobs, and today I've got with me a gentleman that kind of combines all facets of our industry. Somewhat of an enigmatic man from Argentina. He is not an architect, at least not a licensed architect. He has creative ideas. He is not a certified builder, but he builds. He is not a designer, but he designs. I have with me today a gentleman whose name is Jorge Eckstein, and Jorge has ideas, and he has uncovered a portal into an old world that he has been in the process for the last couple of decades, refurbishing and rebuilding, and it has become a national treasure in Argentina. Have I described it correctly?
Quite well. I don't know if national, because treasuries have to be defined. But
as an idea, it works.
As an idea, it's sort of an emblem of the city today.
Fair. Well, so I've got to say to you, thank you for joining today.
It's a pleasure for me to be here.
Before we dive into Jorge's story, I want to take a moment to talk about something that connects directly to what you are about to hear. Jorge is going to tell you about a building he purchased that most people dismissed entirely. When he saw it and what he built from it is a testament to the idea that legacy is not given. It is constructed layer by layer over time with intention. Kaplan's Appliances is that kind of institution. They've been a fixture of Toronto for generations, and not by accident. When you walk into a Kaplan's showroom, you're walking into a business that's been built the same way Jorge built El Zanjón, with care, with relationships, with a commitment to quality that does not take shortcuts. They carry the best in the world: Sub-Zero, Wolf, Miele, Jenner, Fisher & Paykel, La Cornue. And for your outdoor spaces, DCS Outdoor, Lynx, Urban Bonfire, and more. But what sets them apart is not the product. It is the service that surrounds it. When you book a showroom appointment, you are treated to a meal prepared by their in-house chef while you experience the products firsthand. That is not transaction. That is a relationship. If you are an architect, a designer, a builder, or a homeowner, head over to the liner notes to connect with Kaplan's, or email me directly at Jonathan, Jonathan, at issuedforconstruction.ca, and I'll personally introduce you to their team. Now, let's get into Jorge's story. So today's episode is going to be, I think, slightly different than the standard in some capacity, only in that we're going to talk about a specific, we're going to talk about your life, and we'll talk about the evolution of what you've become over your life and family and all the rest of it. But we'll talk about this discovery and what it has led to and the impact that it's had, all things related to that. So if you're listening today, you got to know what you're about to hear is a really, really, really interesting story. So,
well, hello there. And let's say that I'm not an architect, although the etymology of the word architect is first carpenter. So if you look at the architects today, well, carpenters would be architects and architects would be designers. And the truth is that with evolution architecture, it went from stone, wood, different materials, iron, steel, bricks, concrete, and now we're going back to wood. Well, that tremendous change through thousands of years really represents the evolution of an idea, which is knowing more and understanding the problem it causes. Well, now what I'm going to tell you, this adventure of mine that happened by accident, and we'll go to back later, has to do with something that started as the desire of an investment to the birth of an idea and a philosophy. And you say this is abstract.
Yes.
Well, not so. We talk about a project which is 77,000 square feet, digging underground and discovering under derelict building a tunnel which was under that building with a length of 14 meters. And then we'd go back later into which were the steps that took us to the end. A tunnel was the first sewage system of the city. They went under the whole square, different buildings, and revealed ruins going back to the 1600s, 1689, 1700s. How did we get there? Well, I'm a chemist by profession, and I worked in chemistry for more than 30 years.
Before we go into that, I want to actually go back to the very beginning of your life. Where were you born? And where were your parents from? And what was your life like where you were born and growing up?
Well, you went to the core of the thing, because really, in a way, when we live and grow, we carry something that we've learned.
Correct.
At school, at home, at the same time, the experience of our parents. My parents came from Hungary.
Yep.
My father left early 1926, before Nazism, before communism.
Okay.
The family that was left there in Hungary, which is now Romania after 1918 border modification,
yep,
they had to survive those two systems. So basically, I was vaccinated against the loss of freedom because of my parents' situation. He was a chemical engineer. He studied in Prague with a top organic chemistry professor, Oleman. And I went into chemistry. He worked in oils. And then when I started working, I went to the same branch, fats and oils, but I went into animal fats. That was a sort of specialized field where you could compete.
Yeah.
And I knew that sometime I wasn't going to be able to lead, having a small company with 7 laborers. But I did succeed in creating a product that was unique, sold to international companies, Shell, Exxon, Pfizer, Henkel, all the big chemical companies. So I knew that I was going to be controlled. And
how old were you?
Well, first I worked for 3M for a year, and then I went into this field. I was 24.
Okay.
So till I was 23, let's say 35 years, I worked in oils.
Okay.
And I knew that business was going to die out. And I had no capital to put up something new and big, but it was a big industry. What I had 1,000 tons of capacity in fats, and I was working with boilers, vacuum systems, refrigeration, air conditioning. So I had a good industrial background.
Okay.
When I stopped, which I didn't stop totally because my son, who's an engineer, went into that business, and I sort of moved out.
Yeah.
Because
I helped mentor him a little bit at the startup.
No, he worked direct. He learned what I knew.
Yes.
And so he went on working in a market that was changing and dying out, but he was able to find other things to do in the meantime. And I went into work in this project, which I had bought, where it was a plot of land with an old building on top of it, closed in. I bought it closed in. I didn't know what was inside.
Okay.
12,000 square feet of building, full of rubble inside, which I did not know till I went in. And the idea was that it was given away. It was sold for the value of 2.5 mid-sized cars. In the center of the city, 7 blocks for the Pink House, which would be equivalent to 7 blocks from the White House, considering the difference between Argentina and the United States.
Yeah.
But it was a ridiculous value. So I bought really trash. If you want to be more polite, you could say scrap.
That's okay. I'm good with trash.
Now, that's what I used to do with fats.
Okay.
Because I used to refine edible oils, but I couldn't compete with the scale. It's like having a car factory and suddenly you start with sewing machines. If you can build a car with sewing machine, it's simpler. You're pretty good. You got the technology. So I went into animal fats. But what sort of animal fats? Well, horse grease, chicken grease.
Grease?
Yeah. Fish oil.
Okay.
Now, you have to put things in perspective. One thing is of talking about a car in the year 2025 or 26. Another thing is having an idea of a car in 1899. So I was in 1899 when I was talking about cars because I was talking about fish oils in the year 1963. And the United States was publishing books about fish oil by an author named Stansby in 1960. So I had to bring those books from the States to convince the chemical people in the industry that that could be used. And that's what I refined. So I was accustomed to working with scrap.
Okay.
When I buy this building, I thought I was making an investment that was going to go up 10 times in value to be able to accumulate capital without robbing a bank.
Yeah.
To start something else, which I didn't know what was going to be about.
Okay.
Which is like what happens when you meet somebody of the opposite sex and you invite to have a drink. And you don't know how it's going to end. But your idea is not getting married and having 3 children. It's something else.
I didn't know this would evolve into this foundation of your marriage.
That was a foundation of marriage because I met my wife by accident.
Having a drink?
No, invited to a party I was not going to go to.
Okay.
But 2 blocks away from this building I'm talking about.
Yes.
And the same side of the street. And we met and we started going around and we've been married now for 63 years and we met 70 years ago. So that was the same situation.
Yeah.
Accident. So I'm not going to say that I bought the building because I had faith in accidents, but that's the way it happened.
Yes.
When I went in, I saw a watchtower. Had to go in through the balcony with a ladder because the owners never came to open the gate. And when I saw what I had there, I said, this is all done. And when people visit, we have 36,000 visitors a year, and 50% are foreigners, and 20% are passengers of 6-star boats.
Passengers of what?
Passengers of boats, okay. Ships,
yeah,
6-star ships,
yeah, that
cost $1,000 a night, and they come there because it's a place to see, and they say they've never seen something like this. And what is it what they see? They see the love and care that was put into putting that up. Now, you can impress with a golden ring, a diamond ring, or with a flower that's unique. Well, this turned to be a unique piece of, really, if you want to define it well, it's a singular object. There's a book by, I don't know if you heard about it or read about it, by Baudrillard, and it's about the combination of philosophy and architecture. And they talk about what makes an object singular, what it carries. And they say it carries the uniqueness of the memory. Mm-hmm. And this had that already there.
Right.
But I hadn't read the book. That book was printed in the year 2000 in Argentina. I read in the year 2003, but I started this in 1985. So in 1985, I found myself with a piece of trash, which was trash for everybody. You had to knock it down, which you couldn't because it was a preservation area.
It was a heritage. Yeah.
And that was where destiny comes in.
Hold that thought, because what Jorge just described, a space that everyone else overlooked, that everyone else said had no value, but he recognized had the potential to become something extraordinary, that is exactly the kind of thinking I want to talk about for just a moment. In design and construction, the threshold is everything. The moment someone crosses from outside world into the space you've created, the experience begins. And the Doors understand that better than anyone. The Doors is a Toronto-based company that specializes in high-quality interior and exterior door systems and windows. Whether you are working on a heritage restoration, a modern residential build, or a commercial project, the entry point of the space sets the tone for everything that follows. Just as Jorge understood that the first impression of El Zanjón had to command respect for what lay beyond it, the right door does exactly that for your project, and so do the right windows. The Doors work closely with architects, designers, builders, and homeowners to source and supply doors and window systems that match the vision of the project, not just the spec sheet. If you want to learn more about working with the Doors and what they can bring to your next project, head over to the liner notes of this episode. Or email me directly. It's Jonathan, Jonathan, at issuedforconstruction.ca. Now, back to Jorge, back to 1985.
Because when I talked about meeting somebody, to come out well, you had to have the luck of meeting the right person. If it's not the right person, it can be not so good or disaster.
Yes.
So I found this in a stage of my life where I was needing something new, and something new where I could apply my knowledge and my experience. I had a sort of experience in industry. I had done a couple of house remodelations, well done, good design, which I did myself. So I thought I can do this, restore this house.
But at the time that you're under the impression all you're doing is a restoration to the house.
Not even that. I was doing an investment.
I follow. But where I was going with this is that at this point you didn't even know what existed yet.
No.
All you knew is what you saw at face value,
which was the past of the city. That was my wording.
Right.
So I find a Rolls Royce in the street.
Yes.
I see a car, a ruined car in the street without even knowing it's a Rolls Royce.
Right.
And then I say how nice it is.
Yes.
It's a piece of art. Let's restore it. Now, later on, I discovered it belonged to the King of England. That's an added value. But you didn't know that. You knew it was a car, that's all.
Yeah.
But everybody saw that car. Not worth anything because it was destroyed. So when I go in, I understood the value of that. The fundamental value was the past, and it was beautiful. The watchtower. Right away, I decided to restore it. And then serendipity appears. We're trying to test the soil to be able to see how we can hold the structure. The water just doesn't stop flowing, goes and goes and goes. So we make a hole and we discover old bricks in the shape of a vault. And the size of that was, let's say, 50 centimeters, 40 centimeters, nothing. Just a hole. And you could see about not more than 40 centimeters deep. The rest was full of rubble. When I went into the building itself had rubble under the arches, 3 meters high, 4 meters high. So you had to get rid of all that to clean up. That took a long time. When we're testing the floor, we discover the tunnel.
Well, hold on. When you say a long time, what does that mean? Is it 6 months? Is it
The discoverer, no, 3 months.
Okay. Okay.
That was cleaned up, etc. And we have this accident.
Yep.
Had to call an engineer to check everything, and that's what happens.
Got it. Okay.
At that time, I had an architect working with me. Then we separated for one simple reason. When you're a dentist, you look at ladies' teeth. You don't look at their legs. This is a real experience of mine, because I had a friend who was a dentist, very good one, and what he used to say, did you see her teeth? Did you see her teeth? Which is a natural situation.
Yeah.
We started this as an architectural project, the restoration of a house. But what happened? When I discovered the tunnel, the situation changed. Had another object that was making in the complex, that was making this whole singular object a different matter of study. We're going from architecture to archaeology. So that time, I got hold of people to make an archaeological survey of the building. I got a group of people, they did it. And in the meantime, they uncovered part of the ruins, but very superficial. And then I went to England to visit my sister-in-law.
Okay.
And for the first time in England, they have an exhibition of urban archaeology, which started in London in 1922.
Okay.
And I'm in Devon with my sister-in-law, my wife.
What are the chances?
And I said, look, let's go and see this exhibition. So she lived in Oxford.
Yeah.
So instead of going to the airport directly, we went to London, visited the exhibition, left the luggage, I don't know, in the station or something, and visited the exhibition. When I saw the exhibition, I said, my God, what we have, the most important thing is not the past of the building. It's what's underneath. And suddenly, the axis of the whole project changed. We go under. And I came back. I talked to the people who had the archaeological works, and they said, well, we've already done. This is another project. And I'm still young at 87. I was younger then. So I still thought the people were like me that would go for illusions, not only for money.
Yes.
So I said, you know what? It's all right. I'll get somebody else. Signed that everything's finished. And then by accident, somebody who had excavated a government park and found a sort of the house of one of the big dictators in Argentina in the 1830s, came along and he said he would like to excavate. Some things were printed already in the newspaper about discoveries. So I said yes. And I decided after this visit to excavate the whole building. That is, I had an 1830 building, 60 meters long, 50 meters in width, and 2 stories of, let's say, 5 meters each. And I had to make a hole under it. That structure was mounted on hard earth because in Buenos Aires, you don't have any rocks. So we had to put concrete pillars, maintain everything there to make a hole under the whole building, like a garage with columns, to uncover the ruins that are under it.
And how did you know that when you were going to go make these concrete pillars, that you weren't going to disrupt anything else?
Very simple. When you go to the dentist and you have a tooth fixed, he doesn't destroy your mouth.
You hope not.
No, normally, when they're good enough, they don't.
I mean, I just went to the dentist last week and I had someone that was like in training working on my teeth.
Okay.
Let me tell you, I gave some feedback after that.
Okay, you know what? You should have tried with me.
Yeah, it was the anomaly.
So, I had an engineer, very good engineer, structural engineer, but everything was done by hand.
So was the structural engineer working alongside? They were going to work alongside the excavator, obviously.
No, excavator. No, you dig by hand.
But that's what I mean. So they're going to work in tandem to understand the program. But did you also have another archaeologist that was a part of this program?
No, the archaeologist
was gone.
Are gone.
I wasn't sure if you brought in someone else at this point.
No.
Okay.
When they were gone, then I had everything.
Okay.
When they were gone, they worked for a couple of months. So this lasted a long time. So it was by the time I excavated one part, the first part I excavated was simple because it was an 1830 cistern with 30,000 liters of capacity and a French ceramic floor.
An
1830 cistern.
From 1830.
Yeah.
How did they know?
Because we had recordings of the testaments of the house, so we knew that by 1860 they had a family with 6 slaves living there.
Okay.
And by the type of cistern and the people that occupied, that was a water system to collect the water from the roof.
Yep.
So we had the whole system was recovered.
Yep.
And that was done the first stage.
Crazy.
And after that, I decided to excavate the whole thing. Now, this is very similar. When I go back to the idea of education, it's because when you're driving at 100 miles an hour for 5 hours, then suddenly somebody tells you about parking a car and there's about almost no space. You got 8 centimeters on each side at the end, 8 centimeters. Well, you have to do a lot of maneuvering. You lost the knack of that because you're driving at 100 miles constantly.
Yeah.
In today's world, where everything goes fast, it's difficult to understand the advantage of driving slowly. This project, and that was serendipity again, if I would have discovered everything at the beginning, if I would have had the money at the beginning for everything, if everything would have been, let's say, go to the bank, get a check, get 5 companies and do this, you cannot do this. When I had presidents of banks having an event there and asking me to give a little speech, and I said, look, you're accustomed to define a project based on the return. You calculate the interest rate, the return, etc., and then you make a decision of investing.
Mm-hmm.
Investing what? Money. That's what you have in the bank. With all the money you have in the banks, you cannot do this project. Because with this project, what you need is time.
Yes. And skill.
Skill you can pay if you have the patience. But you have to have somebody that understands that this cannot be done fast.
Yes, the order of things.
And a part of that, there's one thing. When you said skill, it's skill of one profession. But here, you need the knowledge of many professions.
Sure.
Because if you do one step in front of the other one, the whole thing collapses. Yeah. So from the beginning, I understood that the fundamental value is preserving what I had found. And for 11 years, I did this without knowing how I'm going to use it. But people don't understand, and they say, we don't understand the commercial sense of this. And I say, tell me something. When you have a kid, do you have a commercial sense in having a kid? You'll be spending money in education, upkeeping, etc., etc. He'll take room in your house. What's the advantage? Well, really, I would like to have a kid. Okay, fine. You had a kid.
Yeah.
What do you do with a kid? Educate him. And that's exactly what I did. So as from the beginning, when I had not even excavated, I started buying books. What sort of books? Well, you have a kid, and you imagine it's going to be cold in winter. You'll be needing clothing. You buy winter clothes. And what size? Doesn't matter the size. He'll be growing. You know he's a girl or a boy. That's a big definition.
Yes.
Fine. If you know the sex, you know what type of clothing you're going to buy.
Correct.
If it's undefined, then you also know. But you have to have some knowledge to know in which direction you're going.
Correct.
So what sort of books did I buy? Books that I understood would mean an asset to be able to tell the story of what happened there.
Right.
But are you a historian? No.
Do you need to be?
I'm a chemist.
Right.
Fine. What you know that you need being a chemist?
Yeah.
Well, you need formulas. Your formulas, way of calculating, ways of analyzing, fine. I bought old books that had the information of the past of the city. So much so that I got to get city council's resolutions of 1600, 1689, 1700, reprinted in 1890, plus other old books.
Reprinted in 1890.
Fine.
It's almost 300 years later, or 200 years later.
Yes. And people, when they see the library, which is part of the museum today, say, is this, oh, lovely, lovely. And tell me something, can people visit? I said, no, this is our private library. But I tell you something, these books, and they say, well, but this have a value. This was not bought because of the value. It was bought because of the content. These books, surely you can find in big libraries.
Right.
What you will not find is the series of books assembled in such a way they are useful to tell the story of what happened here,
right,
or the past of the city.
Right.
That is, you work in leather, but you're doing lady shoes or saddles. It's not the same tool.
Right.
I bought the tools that I needed for that shoe, which we had.
Yep.
So from the beginning, the idea of giving extreme quality and detail to the project was there. And that goes into the ironwork, the brickwork, etc., and the polishing of the concrete.
So when you were getting into the depths of the, we'll call, the start of the restoration of this work, there are masons, and then there are specialized masons, and there are people that can do concrete work, and there's people that can do specialized concrete restoration and work. So how were you able to navigate finding the right?
That group does not exist.
Okay.
I created that group.
Okay.
So much so that many years later,
Yeah,
when the building was almost finished,
yeah,
I say almost finished because it's 3 buildings, the whole complex.
okay,
And the first project started in 1985, finished 2000.
yeah,
The second one started in 1994 and finished 2004. And the other one was finished in 2006. In the meantime, in the first building, it was all learning. It's like your first recording.
of course.
In the 100th recording, it's just sitting down, having a drink, and go on with the recording. It's already, you've got a system.
I wish that it was that simple all the time. Yeah, but not always, but yes.
Well, it's simpler than the first time, definitely.
100%.
It's the first time you don't even know if it's going to work. To tell you something, for example, definitions of what to do with the old plaster on the walls. If you look at the photographs, I suppose you've seen them, I don't know if you have, you're going to see that you see the bricks and you can see the shape of the bricks, and there's some areas that have old plaster. When I went in, everything was in silence, in ruins. And that was something that was dead. Once I started restoring, cleaning up, etc., and we were already in the phase of restoration, and the basement was created to contain the ruins, because it's not a basin that existed. It's a hole that we did to convert into a museum.
Before we go further, I want to pause here because what Jorge is describing, this idea of breathing life back into a space, of transforming something dormant into something that commands attention, resonates with something I want to share with you. Your outdoor space, well, it deserves that same kind of attention. Aquanta Pools designs and builds custom pools and outdoor water features that do exactly that. They take what could be an ordinary backyard and transform it into the kind of environment that becomes the heart of how you live. If you have ever stood in a beautiful design space and felt it the way Jorge describes feeling his building for the first time, you understand what it means to be surrounded by something that was built with purpose. Aquanta brings that same sense of intentionality to the water features and pool environments they create. Whether you are a homeowner envisioning something for your own property, or a designer working on a project that calls for a standout outdoor experience, Aquanta is the team you want. Head over to the liner notes to learn more, or email me, Jonathan, Jonathan, at issuedforconstruction.ca, and I'll help you find out more about what it's like working with them and give you a personal introduction to Yuri and his team. Now, back to Jorge.
And I do interrupt this, which I'm going to tell you later about the brickwork, because this is very important. We call it a museum. Museum normally is, in the modern world, it's a building that's designed to contain supposedly art or part of the past.
Yes.
That is bought from somewhere else.
Correct. It's not the physical place itself.
And the content normally is not totally from there.
Correct.
In many cases, not at all from there. That's why they have to give back to Greece and Turkey. Exactly. We have to give back, etc.
Yes.
When I started this, I was buying a plot of land to make a business.
I love how you just described what you just described, because anyone listening right now, you can appreciate where we're about to go. Go. Sorry for interrupting.
No, I love it, because this project is about real emotion and love.
Yes.
And the tool has been the restoration of a building, which ended up in restoring the tunnels and restoring the memory of the city.
Yeah.
But really is that.
But you're also, I mean, in an abstract method of describing it as well, without having been there myself, and I can't tell you now how much I would look forward to coming and seeing this, but the other major difference between describing the traditional museum and what you have uncovered is that in museums, it's generally non-tactile. You can't feel a wall. You can't appreciate the artistry of the artifact that you see in front of you. It is behind glass. There are lights on it. You don't walk through it and experience this immersive experience that you would then experience when you're going from grade and natural light to all of a sudden descending into an underworld that is completely different, full of texture.
You cannot touch it, because that's what we say. Please do not touch the bricks, because you touch the bricks and they're destroyed. People understand that. But you have the physical feeling.
That's what I'm describing. I don't mean about physically touching it. I mean that, like, when you see that wall, you know what that wall feels like. You felt brick before you can appreciate it.
When you're in the museum, you are in the glass case with the artifacts.
Yeah.
Because you got walls going back to the 1700s, assisted in 1830.
Yeah.
And then when I was ready, because we went from the stage, from restoring the house, recovering the underground, recovering the history, and now we were in the detail of how to do the finishing.
Yeah.
And for 11 years, while I was doing that, I didn't know what the kid is going to work as. I was giving him education. So I didn't know he was going to be a cobbler or a surgeon or scientist. You have to give him a very ample education to be able to fulfill all those fields.
And a runway to determine, Are the wings going to stay closed or are they going to open up?
But one thing was true from the beginning.
Yeah.
This was a commercial project.
Right.
It had to have an income to be able to support itself and give a certain profit. Now, there's where the word will come in that defines the project, which I won't tell you yet. I'll tell you at the end.
That's fine.
But the interesting thing was that comparing to the CEO that says, I do not understand the commercial purpose, this did not have a commercial purpose.
Yep.
It had a commercial need, but not purpose, which is not the same. It's totally different. Why? Because you're not doing this to make money. If you want doing this to make money, you do it the cheapest way, the fastest way. It was not the case. It was the best way. But in spite of that idealistic, utopic purpose, it had to make sense commercially.
Right.
So I had to turn this into something that makes sense. Now, you're not going to put a parking place in there, or a fuel station, or drill a hole to do fracking. It was a sort of a historical area. You couldn't do all that.
Yeah.
What could you do? Well, tourism was a logical objective, and a banquet hall. That we were able to fit in well without disturbing any of the conditions of preservation. Now, while I was doing this, that idea only appeared 11 years later. After 11 years, I had already gone into architecture. Now, gone into architecture the same way an adventurer goes to the Everest. He hasn't gone to learn skiing or mountaineering anywhere else. He just went to the Everest. But he stayed in the Everest for 25 years, working with the Sherpas. But you know what? By the time the explorers come in, and they have to stay 2 months to compensate the height, etc.
Yeah.
He's been there 25 years. He's seen everything. He knows everything. He's almost a Sherpa. So I had the feeling the building, I understood about architecture, about design. I learned through the experience of what I had read, applied to that. This is a handicapped kid, not a kid that goes to the Everest and going to climb. He's got a leg missing. Okay, he can't go up. That's what you think. This kid has been there for 25 years. He's learned how to walk in the Himalayas. And he knows what the height is and the problems, etc. Maybe he's not going to be the best, not the first, but he'll handle the situation.
Yes.
We learned how to handle the situation in this building. For example, before we went into the application of everything, because that was the end, this took 25 years. And now in December, it was 40 years I started this project. I've been going there for every year, for every day. And Saturdays and Sundays when they had to put something that was delicate, air conditioning, everything. And I photographed the whole project from the beginning. I have 1,000 photographs. And of those photographs, my wife painted many of them. So we have a sort of a art area. And now we have an art gallery with her paintings, which are part of the photographs, not too many, and the rest, the paintings that she does. So while I was doing this process, I had a visit of somebody who belonged to the family that built the first little house there, 1780s. I was able to find the first escrow of 1689 in the National Archives. That took me 3 months, personally, every afternoon to go there and find out. Now, what value does that have? I did not know. You don't learn how to write a poem. You learn letters. And then when you learn the letters, you understand the first sentence, which is normally mother, something like that. And why you learn to write mother? That's what people do. But then you build sentences with that, then phrases, and then you can write a book or not. You can express yourself. So it's not the immediate result. So why did we need all those documents? for one simple reason. Because when I sold oils to Shell
Yes.
or to Exxon, I had a chemist on the other side. He had equipment better than mine.
Right.
And he would control what I was delivering.
Right.
And in my whole professional life, nobody sent me a product back. And the 3 cases where they did send it back, they were wrong. Not that I'm better than they are. I cannot resist a mistake because I'm small. So if Exxon or Shell puts up a roofing, which they say will last for 30 years, which they did here in Canada, and then it ended up that it doesn't last 30 years, and they had a
problem.
A lawsuit.
Yeah, they can deal with that because they're big enough to be able to manage it.
I lose my customer.
100%.
I lose.
Of course.
So I could never afford it. Not that I want to. It's not in my spirit. But maybe, well, if you're in a hurry, it might slip.
Yes.
I can't slip. So I used to control the production. When it was finished, I went into the tank before loading the truck. And then while I loaded the truck, 3 controls, and I did them myself. I had no problems. Well, I imagine that somebody came to a historical place and I said something. It could be a historian who had all the data, and they could say, well, yes. And it did happen. It did happen that somebody came from, not because I'm afraid of making a mistake, but if you study the whole lesson properly, the possibilities of not being approved are low.
Yes.
Normally, you're going to get a 7, 8, or 9, or 10.
Yes.
Fine. I would love to get a 10, but at least I'm not going to get a 4. Yeah. Not because I want to get a 10.
Correct.
So I'm not that good. I want to get a 10 and I get 7. Okay, but it's, at least I can have an excuse.
It's passable. You haven't lost the plot.
Exactly. So one day, one person came in and I showed them a glass case with elements of the past. And then I was talking about the past of the building, and I was talking about who had been the owner of the first square when he got it from the founder of the city. And he tells me, listen, this gentleman, Juan Gonzalez, he was not in the list of the founders of the city. I said, well, but he's in the escrow, and he's in a drawing of 1580. So thing went on. And then I decided that when I go to visit my brother-in-law in Spain, I go to the National Archives in Seville and look for the documentation to see if I could find this gentleman. So I spent a week in Seville with my wife, just before flying back to London. And I looked at Juan Gonzalez, that was his name, lists, and I couldn't find anything that could justify. Yeah. And suddenly, about 50 minutes before we leave the archives, my wife sees a list of the governor of the city, and because of the hunger, and there's a list of food, and it's his name, Juan Gonzalez. So we took that back. So in that little detail, you see that although this was a commercial project, we didn't know exactly how we're going to use it. But from the beginning, we tried to convert trash into something that has a meaning. By the time the whole process finished, we had a museum. While I was putting the glass on the courtyards, which is 12 millimeter glass, insulated, the gentleman who owned the company said, tell me something, do you have a museologist to do the layout? I said, museologist? I didn't say what's that, but I knew, but almost. I said, no, because my...
And what is it?
People that specialize in museums, in putting laying out museums, the museólogo, it's in Spanish, museologist.
Okay.
It's when you put glass cases, how you exhibit, how you illuminate, etc. Specialists, let's say like industrial engineer, well, it's about museums.
Got it.
I said, no. So every time I visit my son, who's been in the States for 38 years, he was in LA. I used to go to museums and then started going to the bookshop and looking at books of museums. And suddenly I realized that what I was doing was all right. I didn't see anything new. Now I got people from England come and say what a good exhibition it is, because we integrated the architecture and the design into that. That is, we learned about education, educating our kid without being a professor. We've been studying, we're still studying for 40 years. I keep on studying the world to see if I'm going, this is the north, I'm checking. Is still the north, or the north is being displaced and magnetic? North has changed in the last 40 years that I've been walking in direction.
Right.
There's been a magnetic disturbance, which indicates that the north is there's a slight deviation.
Yeah. And
that training of checking on myself, the original thought with what I did, which it's a road that I took, but the world, I'm checking where the world is going. And suddenly I realized that my objective, which was ridiculous, not in one field, in every aspect it was ridiculous. Buying that for that money, which was given away, but that was not worth more than that, not even that, to how to use it, how to excavate, how to design, 25 years ago, the handicap, the restrooms, mine are double the size of a normal one. It's from there to here. But I have many positions in the restroom.
Yeah.
So it was designed, and now it's 25 years that I finished my first building, and I go into the restrooms, and when somebody comes to do an event, I tell them, why don't you have a look at the restrooms, and then you understand how this is done. And they're astonished. I had people coming from the States, design people, who the organizer decided to do the event, a part of the building itself, because of the frames that I had designed to put the screens to exhibit. The screens are 32 inches. Now, 32 inches is a small screen, right? But the thing is, in that building, you have to understand to respect the building. The building has to be the destination of your site. So when we do a frame, the metal, which is all the metal work, has 2 or 3 different sizes, and with that I built. It's like a Lego, and it's very thick.
Right.
It's 9 millimeters thickness. It's this, and 38 in width, and that's the frame on the screen. And then all the stand is done with the same metal, put in this position so you can see through. So the idea is that whatever you put in front of you, which is designed, it goes in front of the wall, lets you see the wall. That's why I told you about. Here you can see the street.
Right.
You can see through. So basically all the design lets you see through.
Right.
It doesn't matter from where you're looking.
Got it.
So you look at all the brick, it's all brick. It doesn't interfere. Well, they decided to do the event there. When they came, somebody came and said, you don't mind, but I was half an hour in the restroom taking photographs. People that do design, it's not that it's the design. People realize that how light it is, how it lets you appreciate what you want to show.
Right.
So the whole trick, when people ask who designed this, I say the building.
Right.
It's because it's like the handicapped kid that went to the Everest, and you say, tell me something. How did you design this walking stick for handicapped people? I didn't do it. The kid did. The kid needed this to be able to summit.
He figured out what he would need to be able to get through the challenge of what was in front of him.
I think that, not to make it longer, but this defines how everything the design was geared, talking about design. Now, talking about the plaster, which we started the conversation.
Yes.
When I went to Spain to find about the documents, and I did.
Yeah.
I spent a whole week looking at the walls in Seville. And I realized that the plaster was new, covered the original walls, but it was new. In my case, I had the old brick. I had the wrinkles. That's wrinkles. And I was trying to figure out, what do we do with this face? Well, people, what do they do today? Well, eliminate the wrinkles, because then you look young. I had the opposite situation. I wanted to keep the wrinkles to show the past.
Yes.
That's something that now I tell you, and it seems, well, don't tell me something intelligent. This is ridiculously simple. It's natural. It's not so natural, because at the same time, I had plaster. What do we do with the plaster?
To keep it from cracking.
No, and it was falling off.
That's what I mean. To maintain in the integrity that it has right now.
Well, that was a very difficult decision. It took me months, maybe almost a year, to make a decision after visiting Spain. And I said, to start with, the plaster that is not going to stay has to be taken off. For that, again, serendipity, and again, reward. Why? Because in one of the walls, when I removed that, old arches appeared, of old openings.
You uncovered more space?
No.
Just architectural features.
The modifications.
Yeah.
I discovered what had happened with the walls. It's like if somebody now comes into your place and knocks down the walls.
Yeah.
He'll find the structure.
Yeah.
He'll find the new structure and the old one. Okay. So for you, it's not useful because it's a new building, but for us, that I was looking for
I follow. So what you were uncovering in this scenario, this arch, it would have been a structural support for something above.
No, no, it was an opening that was closed in.
Oh, it was an opening that was
closed in.
Oh, okay.
That's very common. I went to Italy the year 2000.
Yeah.
And it was my wife's 60th birthday. And we went to Rome. And we went to the Parthenon. And there I saw something that I had discovered in my project before, which was unusual. It's an interesting story, this. And we haven't got to the wall yet. Well, yes, we went to the explanation of the wall and then covering of the arches.
Yeah.
In the first building, we were for 11 years without knowing how we're going to follow.
Yeah.
In one side, we had the bricks laid straight till you got to the hard soil. On the opposite side, I had some arches. And some arches that were filled in with bricks, put this way, to fill in. And I couldn't understand why. 10 years later, 12 years later, when we got to the other side, when we uncovered all the tunnels under the whole square, we had walls coming from our building and walls coming down from the building next door. And in one of the cases, the river was running and the partition wall was in the middle of the riverbed. Why is this? Because when they did the distribution of plots of land in the city, that was done in paper. Now you have a depression of a riverbed that some days it floods because it's rainy season, then it's dry. Well, you just put the columns there. When this system disappeared because they installed a new sewer system in the city, which runs now under the streets, this was filled in. When we uncovered the whole thing, we realized that in some places, the arches were put to let the water flow. So in the partition walls, when there was an area where you had a flow of water coming from one side, they put an arch so the water would not knock down the foundations.
Well, so that's what I was referring to before, that those arches were structural arches.
Exactly.
They weren't just aesthetics, that they were structural.
The one underneath, but the one on top, which is the one we discovered.
Later. Okay.
The one before, not underground, but on top.
Yes.
Those were windows or doors
that
had been modified.
Right.
So were sort of gifted with that discovery.
Wow, it's wild.
So the whole thing went like that.
So there's two things I want to say. I want to say something and then I want to ask something. So important, worth stating right now. If you've been following along in this story and you can appreciate literally the depth of the story, and the depth has two meanings. Obviously, you go figure out what those meanings are. Yeah, there's clown words. If you can appreciate all of this, I have to tell you that you can, one, head to our liner notes, because there will be a link in the liner notes of the show with access to the website associated with the museum. But in addition to that, you can also head over to Instagram, the Issued for Construction pod on Instagram, also in liner notes, and there will be images of what we're describing there, so you can see the visuals of what's been discussed today. That will all be there so that you can now take the concepts of what's been discussed and now tie it to the visual elements. So that was one thing I wanted to say. So if what you've been trying to understand is too abstract to understand, you'll be able to now understand it visually. Second part I wanted to ask you was, you uncover all of this space underground. Does the museum own the space that extends under other properties, or is it a collective ownership because of the ground rights? How does that work?
No, that was quite the 3 buildings in the process,
yeah,
and a tunnel, which is part under our building,
yes,
and part our neighbor,
yeah,
one neighbor,
yeah,
because the other part that belongs to the museum itself.
Okay.
It's a plot of land that was bought for parking.
Okay.
When the continuation of the tunnel was discovered 11 years later,
yes,
we made a deal with our neighbor to consolidate his building, which was a tenement house,
yeah,
where they had an accident. Somebody fell down, the balcony came down. So that was very difficult and very costly, because we had to consolidate his building on top of the tunnel, which is his tunnel.
yes,
And we got the right of way. That is, there's an escrow,
yeah,
where you have the right of way, even if he's the owner.
I follow, yeah.
But you have the right of way for that space.
Yes, below.
Yeah, but within a determined width.
Yes.
Which includes the walls of the tunnel, and depth.
Yeah.
Under that volume still belongs to him.
Got it.
Now, if he wanted to drill a hole to get oil, he would have to come through other ways, because that's historical area.
Got it.
So we had to come from below, which is not feasible. Yeah. So that's the situation.
Got it. Okay. So I'm clear on that.
That was the situation.
And how long did that process take in the midst of all of this? I assume it would have taken time to establish parameters, like legally and with.
It was the first escrow.
Authorities.
The first escrow done in the city of this type.
Yeah,
it never existed before.
So you essentially set the precedent for what this could look like on a go forward basis.
Oh, everything's the first time in this case. You're discovering something that you don't know what it is. Yeah. That's what I told you, that we kept on learning.
Yeah.
We kept on learning. If you wanted to give speed to that process, it would destroy.
Right.
It's like coming back from space. At certain speed, the heat protector will work.
Yeah.
Above certain speed, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, that's the philosophy a bit behind this project, because in the year 2003, we have the visit of a Belgian archaeologist, Johnny Mollemeister, who created the career of medieval archaeology in Belgium. He was representative for preservation matters for UNESCO for Belgium. He visited this place. Imagine, when we started, the city council didn't have an archaeology department. They have it now. So we were the first in everything. They printed, this is the most important archaeological project of the city. The city council put that. Now, in 40 years, I've gone through all the governments. Imagine city council here for 40 years. You've seen them all, even if they come twice, which normally in Argentina, they don't come twice. Here they do come twice, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but they know. So I've seen other governments. Interesting. The attitude of the governments varied through time. At the beginning, it was the first thing. It was impressive. You saw articles in the newspaper. By the time the project finished, you would say it would be far more favorable. No, it wasn't. And at the same time, you have to understand that Argentina, private enterprise before, has never been a beneficiary of governments. Private wasn't well looked at.
Okay.
So much so that one of my first interviews that I didn't tell in radio, imagine when I started, you didn't have cellular phones. You have to go back in time to understand the vision of this project. We didn't have cellular phones. We had fax.
And you didn't have internet.
We didn't have internet. Fine. But
gaining exposure to be able to get any form of like international recognition for what was going on, it was impossible. You need to have someone write an article in a global newspaper that was read all over.
Exactly. We did get a prize for restoration of old cities. We were candidates, finalists, and the Gubbio Prize, which started in Italy, and then they have one in South America, because what we have done. But now we have a government that is favorable to private enterprise, but is the least enthusiastic about preservation. But that you have to take it as the way you take seasons in Canada. If you live in Canada and you're going to start complaining that it's 4 below, it's a normal temperature here. So the attitude of governments concerning preservation, it's a circumstance.
Yes, it will pass.
It will pass. What will remain is the real value.
Right.
And this has its real value. So when this gentleman visited the Zanjón 2003, I came down and I said, I'm going to do the guided tour. I came down. He came from somebody from the city council. By that time, they did have a preservation and archaeology area.
Yeah.
I said, what sort of visit would you like to have? Archaeological, historical, architectural, or you would like to know the philosophy of the project?
Why do you have to have one designation? Why can't you have multiple?
Sorry?
Why do you only get to have one designation? Why couldn't you have multiple? Why couldn't you have archaeological and architectural?
No. I wanted to ask him to see what he said to give him the scope.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry.
It's like it's like when where do I start? I can start. Doesn't matter where I start. I'll end up with the story of the Zanjón complete. Doesn't matter where.
Fair.
So, and he said philosophical.
Okay.
And then I said, well, I have to confess that it's the first time that I understand how I can define what I'm doing.
Okay.
For years, I couldn't explain to my friends what I'm doing. At the beginning, I used to say that I'm a sort of a medieval artisan, which was more or less something that had to do with what I was doing. Then I said, I'm a framer. I frame history. That was sort of a ironical description of what I was doing.
Yep.
So, but now I have the word that defines what I'm doing. And what I'm telling you now is the real philosophy of this project. What I'm doing is conciliation. Conciliation between the past, the present, and the future, and conciliation between a commercial project and culture. When he left, he wrote in the visitor's book, which I had, after visiting this idea, he put, and suddenly I understood that what I was doing, the most important thing what I was doing, it was not the building. It was not the physical. It was the idea. And after that, when I started doing, we have a visit of the University of Architecture of Buenos Aires on restoration. We had it for 21 years. And I introduced the Zanjón as an idea site. And that is the real philosophy between this.
By the way, hold on. Sorry to interrupt your train of thought right there, but you've just said something that we haven't really defined. We haven't really said it much. The name of the museum.
El Zanjón.
Thank you. I intentionally didn't say it at any point earlier. I wanted you to have the buildup of this story to talk about it to get to the point where we now say
El Zanjón,
okay.
with sad.
Yes. Okay.
Now, that was the start of the evolution of the idea. I had written many articles. I started writing a book, which I haven't printed yet, which is the history of this project. But it's a narration. It's like a story about the city and about this project, but more about the city, anecdotes of the city. So it's a mixture, and the emotional part, how I found it, etc. But at the same time, I was going to write a book about philosophy and architecture based on the book by Baudrillard, Singular Objects. And there they talk about the memory, restoring the memory. And I think that this has to do with everything. That is, the conciliation of the past, the present, and future. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned the case of your grandmother just now, when Vanessa said, maybe you should record. We're a society of objects, and we're losing the capacity of leaving an intangible.
Yes.
So the museum, which at the long run, in the end, turned up to be a museum, but it's a museum that has more than objects. It's got the objects who belong to this place. In that sense, it's original, because everything that's there belongs to there. This was not bought, was not taken away, was not received.
It was not transported and received there, yeah.
Including the case.
Yes.
It's got the added technology to be able to function in today's world.
Yes.
But it's the real thing by itself. It's not what it looks like. It's what it is, which is the most important thing, the fundamental value of that. But then, when I gave a chat in Quebec for Unitween about preservation and development, mm-hmm. I came with the idea. I said that I showed the photographs of the process, and I said, everybody wants to find hydraulics in the street. Nobody in the world wants to find a system under his house. Why? That's the truth. Nobody wants. Why? Because it means an inconvenience. If you in your living have a cistern, 1800 cistern, you're done. You won't be able to cover, etc. You're going to have a problem.
Yep.
Fine. Now, how come? Don't we want to preserve? Now, to preserve, you have to have the will of everybody to preserve, not only of the people who are in charge of preservation.
Yep.
The butcher, the mechanic, the dentist, the gardener, and the owner. Everybody wants it. Fine. But it's not happening. Why? Because the people that dictate the preservation rules mm-hmm. have not been involved in the problem of what to do if you find it. Well, if you amplify that idea to the development of the cities,
yes,
you have the problems you have today in every city of the world. Every city of the world has the same type of problem. Funding is not enough. Infrastructure is not enough. You need population, but it's overpopulated.
Yep.
And you lost the original sense of the city. Now, what have I done in the building, in the Zanjón project? I had to conciliate. Now, what does conciliation mean? If you look at the dictionary, so possibly it will say, well, to get to an equilibrium between two different interests. It's not like that. If not, it would be easy. Everything would be conciled. The wars, everything.
Yeah.
Litigations.
Yeah, there would be no conflict.
But there is.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Why? Because people do not define which is fundamental, which is accessory. I had that definition very clear in the project. What was fundamental? To make money? No. To preserve? Yes. How much? With a limit. So I defined the fundamental, at the same time, the limitation of fundamental. If not, I would have said, okay, let's put all the money that's needed here. We give in the key and we go to my daughter's house to live.
Yeah.
And retire there and do nothing. No. That was not the objective. The objective was to have something that would be self-sustainable. You don't educate your kid. He gets a degree. You give him a wallet with $100 and say, well, see you in the next world. You don't do that. You want him to be able to succeed, to make a living.
Yeah, you nurture them.
Fine. So that's the same thing. Now, if you take this concept, this idea, to other areas of activities, meaning real life and everything, suddenly you find that the world is not working this way. It's working in another way. That is, you get internet did not exist.
Yeah.
You only had radios, fine. Yeah. But you didn't have to pay for the radio. You paid for the artifact. You didn't pay for the wave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today, you're in a different technological world. You buy the radio, which now named cellular phone or computer, and you pay for the service. And then you pay for the maintenance of the service, for the memory of the service. Suddenly, we're putting on people's lives a consumption expense which will only increase and an income which will only decrease. And we're creating a conflict. Now, call it radio waves, call it construction, call it flying, call it industry, call anything you're talking about. You were creating demand, which will create need for maintenance, which we already know cannot be paid. It's happening. It has nothing to do with one country. It's a system. Okay. And now, what do? Well, the solution is to understand that there is a limit to growth. That is, what our grandparents did, enforced by the world, by nature, by technology, doesn't matter why.
Yeah.
There was a limit to growth. Now, it's almost that there's no limit to growth, even in ambition.
Right.
Well, this is what has created this distortion that in this building I was able to manipulate because it was so low process, small scale, and had a father who was willing to go with the project.
Right.
Well, any questions? I think that...
I mean, one, I think that it has been so interesting because anyone listening right now, you've got to appreciate what has just been described here in this conversation with Jorge here is when you see the images and you can appreciate the timelines associated with the evolution of this restoration, you will see the thought that goes into it in the same way it's described now live with you. And what I know and admire about it is that this museum has become a staple for like dignitaries that come through the city, foreign officials, travelers of all kinds. I know that it has essentially now become a staple of Buenos Aires for people to come and see. And when you have created an environment that enables people to come and see something that If someone else had purchased this property in 1985, they would have never potentially uncovered what you uncovered. And what is now in many ways could be considered a national treasure might have never been seen. And so it is serendipitous that you would have found something like this and that you had the wherewithal to be able to go and now dedicate a second profession to uncovering a world that would have been lost. You have changed, I'm restating it. You've changed governance in the way that this can be addressed. You created professional manpower in trades that might not have known that they could do what they did. And you have, in the midst of it all, and we haven't even discussed this, but she will come on next week as a byproduct of this week's discussion with you, but also created one of the most recognized creative directors in the marketplace today in Vanessa Eckstein, who owns Block Design, and a large part of her creative freedom stems from what you were able to establish in your professional career. And so I have to say to you, you've said it, you've said to me, you've educated me enough that to be honest, I don't want to ask questions. I want the story to be the way you've told it. I just have to say that I so admire the fact that you came here in a visit with your family and that we were able to coordinate this. And I also have to say thank you to Zoe Coombs from the Neptus Foundation, because the only reason that all of this somehow transpired is that I was at a workshop on the evolution that AI would have in design. And the woman that sat down next to me at this workshop was your daughter, Vanessa, who I had just heard about from Zoe on a phone call on the way down to the workshop. And that Vanessa happens to sit down next to me. And then we engage in a conversation that leads to you sitting here today. So when we talk about the way that the world works and the fact that you bought this property and how fortunate it was that you were able to uncover what was there, if you open your eyes to look at the way that the world works, it sends you messages all the time. And if you have a closed mind, you will miss the opportunities to be able to evolve as a person. And I have to say, thank you for coming here today, because I have so enjoyed this. And I'm hoping that you were able to feel that you could tell the legacy project of what this is in an evergreen environment. This interview will never go away. This discussion never goes away. The history of what you uncovered now stays in this interview forever in a different way than words do on print. This is your voice. So I don't want to ask questions. You've told it the way you wanted to.
Thank you so much. And yes, it is my voice. And in the book that I wrote, I haven't printed, I don't know why, because I always keep on changing it.
Yeah.
But the word that is mentioned many times is illusion. And I think that is what kept the project going. Haven't talked about the downhills we had so many times. We all do in life. But if your objective is clear enough and you have the illusion, well, you'll be on the road very soon. Thank you so much.
Jorge, it's my absolute pleasure.